The moon hung low in the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate cemetery. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, broken only by the distant howl of a lone wolf. I stood alone at the entrance, the wrought iron gate creaking on its hinges as I pushed it open. The gravestones stretched out before me like silent sentinels, each one a marker of lives long extinguished. I was drawn to the cemetery by a morbid fascination, fueled by the whispers of the locals who spoke of the horrific and disturbing stories that surrounded the graveyard, legends of restless spirits, vengeful ghosts, and a darkness that clung to the very soil. Ignoring the warnings, I ventured deeper into the maze of tombstones, my flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. As I walked, the temperature seemed to drop, and an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. The stories I had heard played like a haunting melody in my mind, each one more terrifying than the last. Tales of a forgotten section of the cemetery, hidden from the casual observer, where the gravestones bore no names and the shadows whispered forgotten sins. I followed the narrow path, lined with overgrown grass and twisted trees that reached out like skeletal fingers. The beam of my flashlight danced across the weathered tombstones, revealing names that had been worn away by time. The air grew thicker, and I could sense a presence, as if unseen eyes were watching my every move. As I approached the rumored forgotten section, a chill ran down my spine. The stories spoke of a cursed plot where those who dared to tread were never seen again. The air was heavy with an otherworldly energy, and the wind whispered unsettling secrets through the branches above. I hesitated but pressed on, my curiosity overcoming my fear. The forgotten section was like a graveyard within a graveyard, hidden behind a veil of tangled vines and thorny bushes. The gravestones here were more weathered, their inscriptions illegible. The air hung heavy with a damp, earthy scent, and the silence was broken only by the distant hooting of an owl. The forgotten section was like a graveyard within a graveyard, hidden behind a veil of tangled vines and thorny bushes. The gravestones here were more weathered, their inscriptions illegible. The air hung heavy with a damp, earthy scent, and the silence was broken only by the distant hooting of an owl. As I moved deeper into the forgotten section, the ground seemed to give way beneath my feet, as if the earth itself hungered for the living. I stumbled but regained my footing, my heart pounding in my chest. The oppressive darkness closed in around me, and I felt an unseen force tugging at the edges of my sanity. My flashlight flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that danced on the tombstones. I could hear whispers now, indistinct but laden with sorrow and regret. The air was thick with a palpable malevolence, and I could feel eyes on me, unseen gazes piercing through the darkness. A sudden gust of wind extinguished my flashlight, plunging me into total darkness. Panic gripped me as I fumbled for my phone, the feeble glow revealing the outline of twisted trees and crumbling graves. The whispers grew louder, their words becoming clearer, recounting tales of tragedy and betrayal. In the darkness, I stumbled upon a weathered mausoleum, its heavy door slightly ajar. With trepidation, I pushed it open, revealing a pitch-black interior. The whispers crescendoed, and a cold wind swept through the mausoleum, extinguishing the feeble glow of my phone. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw shadows moving within the mausoleum. Unearthly moans echoed through the stone walls, and the air felt charged with a malevolent energy. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and I recoiled in terror, only to find myself surrounded by ghostly apparitions. The spirits materialized from the shadows, their faces twisted in agony, their eyes hollow and empty. They reached out to me, their cold fingers brushing against my skin, their voices intertwined in a cacophony of wails, recounting tales of betrayal, murder, and unfulfilled destinies. I stumbled backward, desperate to escape the suffocating presence of the vengeful spirits. The mausoleum seemed to close in around me, its stone walls pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The very air felt tainted, and I struggled to breathe as the weight of the stories bore down on me. In the midst of the ghostly congregation, a figure emerged from the shadows, a spectral figure clad in tattered burial clothes. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its voice echoed with a haunting resonance. It spoke of a curse that bound the forgotten souls to this desolate place, a curse that sought retribution for the sins of the living. As the figure reached out to me, a blinding light enveloped the mausoleum. I shielded my eyes, and when the brilliance faded, the spirits were gone, and the mausoleum stood empty. The air was still, and an unnatural calm settled over the forgotten section of the cemetery. I stumbled out into the night, my mind reeling from the harrowing encounter. The whispers had ceased, and the darkness that clung to the forgotten graves retreated. The cemetery, once alive with spectral energy, now lay silent and still. As I made my way back through the maze of tombstones, I couldn't shake the feeling that the stories I had heard were more than mere legends. The horrors of the forgotten section had become my own, etched into the fabric of my being. The cemetery, once a place of fascination, had become a haunting reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. I emerged from the cemetery, the wrought iron gate closing behind me with a final, mournful creak. The moon cast its cold light upon the gravestones, and I dared not look back. The stories that had drawn me to this desolate place had become a part of my own narrative, a chilling tale of cemetery stories gone horribly wrong,